I don't care who said it. I don't care if it was Kanye West. I don't care if it was Dr. Claude Anderson. I don't care if it was Tommy Sotomayor. I don't care who said it. Slavery was not a choice.
Where them kicks at? Where them hands? Where them hoes? Where them throws? You know what I'm saying? Cecil.
The very word slave implies that someone is being forced to work for someone else against their will. They have no choice in the matter. They would get away if they could, but they can't because someone is holding them hostage. Slavery implies involuntary servitude. You did not ask for that servitude. You can't escape. And probably if you would escape, they would kill you. So, that in and of itself is why slavery was not a choice for African Americans. I don't care what Harriet Tubman said. I could have freed more of them if they knew they were slaves. I'm pretty sure they knew they were slaves, okay? I'm pretty sure they knew they were slaves. That's why you had to take them away at gunpoint, because they probably saw other people try to escape and get killed. That's why she had to use the gun to get the slave to go. Have you ever heard of Stockholm Syndrome? Harriet Tubman had never heard of Stockholm Syndrome because I don't think that term was out when Harriet Tubman was alive. So perhaps she didn't understand that some people just go, hey, if you can't beat them, join them. And if they've come up their whole lives under slavery, they've accepted their lot in life. That doesn't make them weak. That doesn't make them less than. That doesn't make them inferior. That doesn't make them cowards. That makes them enslaved. Now, I'm probably going to get some heat, but I'm getting to the point where I don't care because this idea that African Americans chose to be slaves almost implies, it actually does imply, it's not almost, I'm just trying to be polite. It implies that African Americans deserve to be enslaved. Because if you didn't deserve to be enslaved, you would have fought against slavery, right? Who was the victor in the situation of American slavery? The victims were the slave owners and the descendants of the slave owners. Okay, I didn't say white people, and I didn't say all white people. I said the slave owners and the descendants of slave owners who had power. People who had power are going to spin the story. Now, if you've ever actually done any study of American history, and if you're supposed to be so fist in the air black that you've ever listened to Louis Farrakhan's speeches, he has one speech where he says, our people have never been punks. And you know what he meant by that? People were actively resisting and fighting against slavery the whole time. They just were not successful at getting away from it. One reason may have been because the people who owned slaves had guns and the slaves did not have guns. There was Turner's Rebellion. There was a white man named Jim Brown who fought and died for African American freedom. People, I've heard and read accounts of people poisoning their masters, urinating in the master's food, putting glass in the master's food, all types of things to fight against slavery. Some slaves, they say, used to just throw themselves when they were making sugar. They would just throw themselves in a pot to spoil it and ruin it so that the masters couldn't have it. That does not sound like someone or a group of people who just laid back and decided, okay, oh, well, we're just going to be slaves. They were fighting against slavery the whole time. And if some of them decided to just go along, maybe they were tired of seeing their friends, their families, their children killed. See, I think that a lot of people who want to go and bash the people of the past who were slaves and act like, they should have fought more, they should have done this, they should have done that. I think there's two things wrong with you. I think number one, especially if you're a black person, you probably suffer from some type of low self-esteem when it comes to the African American ethnic group. You must feel like that the African American ethnic group is less than. So you're going to look at the African American ethnic group, which you may or may not be a part of. Because like I said, I don't care if you're Dr. Claude Anderson. I tell you this to your face. I don't care who you are. You're being ridiculous. You're just as ridiculous as the people who try to say that everything's slavery. You know, we live in a slave state. We're still enslaved. We are not still enslaved. Now you can say we're under oppression. You can say that it's too much police power. You can say that, you know, you have the haves and have-nots. Fine. But when it's not slavery, it's not slavery. You can argue, you know, economic oppression and then class division and things like that. But it's not slavery because we're not enslaved right now. Yes, there's racism and things like that and discrimination. And now we're starting to get into gender politics and a lot of different types of sexism that are also disproportionately affecting African Americans in particular, but also affecting men across the board. But it's not slavery. You're as ridiculous as the people who say everything's slavery. You either are an African American person who just feels bad about your ethnic group because you have the history of slavery, even though every race in the world has been enslaved at some point. Ours is just more recent. Or you're probably not African American. You could be a black person, you could be a white person, and you just look over there, look at those African Americans, they were slaves. Like that couldn't possibly happen to you. Another thing that's wrong with you is you just don't understand human nature. I don't care how tough you think you are, how much indomitable spirit you think you may have picked up from studying a martial art, or some of you just feel like you were born into like a special group, be it your race or your income or whatever it is, whatever special group that you feel you were born into that you think makes you better than everybody else. Like you don't think you could possibly be enslaved. If somebody beats you down enough, you're going to have two choices. You're going to die, or you're going to go along with whatever they're trying to get you to go along with. Now, one argument that's been made is that all the African Americans could have just chosen to die, and that way they would have never been enslaved. That runs counter to human nature because human nature is for people to survive at all costs. Because, see, that wouldn't assume that every single African American person in the world is a warrior. And every member of the African American ethnic group is not a warrior. Every race is not chock full of warriors. The whole mindset of I would rather die than is something that has to be cultivated. And that is something that can be cultivated in the martial arts. But that's something that has to be learned. Most people, the overwhelming majority of humanity, just wants to survive. So if an overwhelming force comes and they fought against it, 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 and they were unsuccessful at fighting against it, they are going to relent. And that includes you too, you who think that slavery was a choice. That is the most ridiculous argument I have ever heard. And you have nerve. I don't care who you are. You have a lot of nerve if you want to go around on the internet and try to insinuate that those poor people who lived in such terrible conditions in any way deserve what happened to them. You have some serious soul searching that you need to do, and dare I say you need counseling. Of course, you need Jesus, but you're probably going to say that I only say you need Jesus because the slave master beat Jesus into me. So I'm not going to be able to win with you. But those of you who have the ears to hear already know I'm telling the truth. And on that note, thanks for watching this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this with people who like to talk about the martial arts. Hey, if you want there to be more people who will fight against the ills of oppression in this world and will fight against things like slavery, encourage more people to study the martial arts. Peace.